Hi guys, we are live. We're off the mark, ready to go. Another Monday morning. Got a nice sunny Monday morning over here as well. Hope it's lovely where you guys are. Make the most of this little burst of sunshine before the winter comes around, I think. So yeah, you don't know how many more nice days we're going to get. So really trying to make the most of them while we get them. Okay, guys. So welcome back. We are back in for the third session, or our third week of our pre-employability and well-being course, where we're looking at a lot of skills that will not only be helpful in the real world and in potential employment situations, but just in terms of taking care of ourselves as well, and looking after ourselves and understanding our own bodies and ultimately our own fitness a little bit better so we can manage it a little bit more, like I've mentioned before. Maybe that's something that you've tried to do a little bit through lockdown and stuff like that, over the last 18 months. Maybe it hasn't been a priority, but I think we're all kind of coming into this same space now where, things are slowly returning back to normal. Things have been kind of fully open without restrictions for a month or two now. And we're potentially getting access to new stuff and hopefully feeling a little bit more confident going out and doing a little bit more. Of course, we've got vaccines rolling out. I know a lot of people are double vax now, myself included. So, like I say, hopefully we're going to have a lot more choice available. So we really are being put in a position now where we can look after our fitness a little bit more and just think about our own well-being, guys. So far we've looked at a little bit of healthy eating. We've looked at reading food labels, how to interpret those, how to break down the information on them, what constitutes a food that's high in sugar, fat, saturated fat, and salt. And of course, we've looked at the skeletal system as well, and the bones in the body, the functions of the skeletal system. And even then, we can start to put those things together and start to understand how our diet can affect our body and stuff like our bone density and all of that sort of thing as well. But it carries on obviously into today's session as well, where we're going to be looking at how the heart works. So again, understanding the function of the heart in bringing oxygen around the body and delivering it to the muscles that need it. So not only how the heart works, but like I say, understanding that journey that actually goes on as well. Where does that cycle begin? Where does it sort of end? So we can have a little bit of a look into that this morning anyway. And hopefully, like I say, start to understand how the heart works a little bit more, understand the anatomy of the heart a little bit more. So hopefully, again, we can then start to see how and why our food choices might start to affect our heart. Like I say, exercising as well, or lack of exercising, we might really come to understand why, we've got to take really good care of not just the heart, but all the valves, the veins and arteries and stuff that are in there as well, guys. So like I promised last week, we are going to get a little bit arts and craftsy this week. So grab yourself a pen and paper. By all means, pause it if you need to take a little bit more time. And you need two different colored pens, pencils, a pen and a pencil, just two different things that you can draw or write in to differentiate. Either, in this case, it's going to be blood with oxygen and blood without oxygen, but we can get to that in just a second. So, like I say, grab yourself a pen and paper, and we'll have just 30 seconds or so while you guys can get that sorted. As always, I am watching along in the chat, guys, so if there's anything that you want to add, if there's anything that you want to sort of ask, or even just sort of chime in with, by all means do, guys. I'm more than happy with that. Of course, if not, if you're watching along later on in the week, like I know a lot of you guys are, like I say, if you need me, just drop me an email and I'm happy to try and point you in the right direction or whatever's going on. So just while everybody's getting themselves sorted, getting pens, paper, wherever we might need, just gonna draw your attention towards the description under today's video as well on YouTube. If you see the little drop down link, as always, guys, all the extra important information is going to be in there. Any extra information that you might need to do with e-safety, learning online, safeguarding, what to do with a concern if you've got a concern, or even just a learner handbook. All of that's in the description. And of course, as always, my email's in there if you need it and don't have it already. There is a link to a fitness video, as we've done the last couple of sessions. More on that later, but that's in there as well. And of course, the survey to complete with today's session as well, guys. So for each session, there's going to be a little survey attached, like I've mentioned the last couple of weeks. And everybody just 30 seconds or so just to fill in that survey. And it gives us a lot of important information we need to fill in paperwork on this end on your behalf. And at the same time, a little bit of feedback, it's really, really important to us. We like to know what your guys' thoughts as well. So yeah, guys, all of that is in the description underneath the video. That should be plenty of time for everybody as well to run off and grab any bits that they might need. Of course, by all means, pause it if you need a little bit longer and just sort of catch up in your own time. Right, guys, let's get into it then. Let's get into it. Because Monday morning doesn't hang around forever. Okay, so we've got 3 different muscle types within the body. Yeah, so we've got cardiac muscle, we've got skeletal muscle, and we've got smooth muscle. Yeah, that's this column on the left-hand side. So the differences between those different types of muscle. So what we've got, cardiac, is muscle that's only found in the heart. Yeah, so the heart is in itself a muscle, and any muscle in the heart is referred to as cardiac muscle. Easy way to remember that if you've heard of cardiac arrest or anything like that. If you think of cardio when you do an exercise for your heart and for your lungs. So cardiac muscle is muscle found in the heart. Yeah. Skeletal muscle is the muscle that you might think of a little bit more sort of typically when you think of muscles, those that you can flex, that you can see in the mirror when you're at the gym or even just in the house. Do you know what I mean? The sort of muscles that you're going to be exercising through gym work and with weights and stuff like that. And ultimately, they are the muscles that help us move. We've talked, obviously, our skeleton helps us with movement and mobility. But at the end of the day, guys, without the muscle to actually pull the bones through whatever range we actually want to work through, we wouldn't be able to go anywhere, so it's actually the muscle. So the way it works, guys, the brain sends a signal. Say I've decided I want to put my hand above my head. My brain's going to send a signal. The signal goes down your nervous system to the muscle, and the muscle then understands, okay, I'm gonna raise up to there, whatever it might be. It might be overhead press in the gym, it could be tricep extension or whatever. But at the end of the day, guys, those are the muscles that actually help us move, and they're muscles that we're in control of sort of day in, day out. The third type of muscle that we've got is smooth muscle. So it's the muscle that is found within sort of blood vessels and internal organs. So, of course, the lining of your stomach, your lungs, your kidney, they're made up of something, of course, and they're not cardiac muscle because they're not in the heart. They're not skeletal muscles because they're not attached to the skeleton, by tendons. And then, like I say, they're smooth muscles, really. So what we've actually got within these 3 different types of muscle is just 2 classifications. So it's either voluntary muscle or involuntary muscle. The only difference being, guys, voluntary muscle is muscles that we are moving of our own free will. So I decide I want to turn my head to the left and turn my head to the left. Same again, I want to stand up, I can stand up, and that's all through sending these signals to the right muscle, and the muscle then contracts and it pulls the skeleton through whatever range it is. So again, for example, if I decide that I want to extend my arm, my brain sends a signal to this muscle here. This muscle gets shorter and contracts. And then your elbow hinges. So the body is really like a rope and pulley system, really. It's all sort of mechanics. And it's like, I've always found that quite interesting, really. But like I say, guys, those are the only muscles in the body that we actually control through will. So all of these skeletal muscles, I want to do star jumps, I want to twist, I want to do whatever. It's all voluntary, whereas smooth muscle is involuntary, and so is cardiac muscle, because we don't control our stomach digesting, we don't control our heart beating. Within reason, I guess we can manipulate where our heartbeat is based on how hard we're working, how hard we're exercising. We can bring it up and we can bring it down, kind of not entirely at will, but we have some choice. But it's largely, guys, if you imagine if you had to tell you and remind your heart to beat every single time, like forever, like you wouldn't have much mental capacity for anything else. Like I can't imagine, So your heart is involuntary. It's going to beat continuously. It's going to do its own thing. And smooth muscles are the same. Like I say, you don't tell your stomach to digest and you know, your internal organs to do any of their jobs, really, you know. So they're all what we would class as involuntary, guys. So cardiac, skeletal, and smooth muscle are the three types of muscle that we've got. And the only ones of those that are voluntary are skeletal muscles. Yeah. So again, all the other types are involuntary because, like I say, we don't need to actually sort of manually control them day in, day out. Okay, guys, right. Let's get on to the heart itself then. So what we've actually got on screen, guys, there, we're just going to go step by step and break it down one step at a time. So what we've actually got, we've got obviously our sheet of paper that we've all sort of got off and got handy. Then we have got, for step one, all we've got is 4 boxes. Yes, we've done 4 boxes to signify the 4 different chambers of the heart. Yeah, so this square here is going to be our heart, and each of these boxes, or I sometimes think of them as rooms, you know. So we've got our little building, which is the heart, and we've got our 4 rooms. Each of those 4 rooms has kind of got their own job and their own place in the process. If you haven't ever come across it before, this word here, cardiorespiratory, sounds like a big old fancy word, and all it is, guys, is to do with cardio, and respiratory is just your heart and your lungs. Yeah, so cardio, again, cardiac, thinking about what we were just talking about with cardiac to do with the heart. Respiratory system is, of course, to do with your breathing, which is your lungs, which actually play a really big part in this process. So we'll have a look at that as we're working our way through and see where the lungs actually come in. But just for now, guys, for step one, we've got our 4 boxes, and we've actually got, if you can see, dividing it down the middle, a big thick wall called the septum. Yeah, so we've got the septum down the middle, which actually separates the left-hand side from the right. Exactly the same, guys, as the divider bit down the middle of your nose that separates one nostril from the other. That is called a septum as well. Maybe you've heard of like a septum piercing, where somebody's got that pierced. Maybe you've got one yourself. But yeah, that's the septum down the middle. And we'll have a look again and come to understand why that big thick wall is really, really important, and it's thicker than the rest of the heart. Okay, guys. So just for now, this is as far as we need to go. But we've got our 4 boxes. We've got our septum, and of course we don't need to write step 1, but we just know that it's step 1. So 4 boxes, septum down the middle. Okay, guys, we'll go step 2. Again, if you're watching along and I'm moving a little bit quick, either pause it or stick in the chat and let me know. I'll go back and explain something again. Like I say, if you're working later on in the week, you can take as much time with this as you want, obviously. Okay, guys, so we're going to roll on to step 2 then. So what we've got for step 2, we've labeled the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So you're probably thinking to yourself, Rob, you've got those the wrong way around, right and the left. So the way that we're imagining this, guys, for this exercise, we're imagining that this is the heart of somebody who is stood facing you. Yeah? So, of course, to them, that would be the left-hand side. That would be the right-hand side, yeah? It's exactly the same as if you actually get it like this on your piece of paper, hold it up and turn it away from you so it's on your chest. You'll notice that the left-hand side lines up on the left and the right is on the right, guys. So we're not getting ourselves confused. All we're doing is we're picturing this in like I say, the chest of somebody that is stood looking at us, yeah? So it's their left and their right. Okay, guys, so that's all we need to do for now. We need to just differentiate left-hand side from the right-hand side. And like I say, understanding why we've got them labeled the way that we do as well. Okay, guys. Okay, so moving on to step 3. So what we've got there for step 3, if you notice, we've actually, as well as separating left and right now, we're differentiating top from bottom. So what we've actually got at the top is an atrium. Yeah, so there's atrium either side, and it's ventricle at the bottom. Yeah, so atrium at the top either side, ventricle. Remember which way around those go. I think of like an atrium in a building, which is kind of like open topped. Yeah, so that's the way that I think about it. Really, really sort of high ceilings if it's got them. So, because that's where, in this case, in this analogy, that's where the blood flows in from. It flows in to the left atrium through the top. Yeah, so I can say that's how I remember that one. Ventricle at the bottom, and again, so we can actually say, of course, that we've got the right atrium and right ventricle are totally separate from the left atrium and the left ventricle, again, because of this little septum down the middle. Okay, guys, so just give a second to work through that. Okay, guys, so rolling on to the next one then, rolling on. Okay, guys, so step four. So what we've actually got here, we've got to help visualize the journey that the blood is following through the heart and around the body. We've actually got two more boxes that we've added here. So we've got a body box to the left and a box that says lungs off to the right hand side. So when we say body, we're referring to muscles, organs, and anything that needs blood with oxygen in it delivered to. Yeah, it's everything but the heart, really. So we've got the heart, everything else in the body, and then at this side of things, we've got the lungs as well. And then we can start to have a little bit of a look, like I say, just the journey that the blood goes through. So while I'm on, guys, just giving anybody a chance to get caught up that maybe needs to get caught up. What we've actually got here is, like I say, we've got our four chambers, but the two that are connected, the atrium and the ventricle on either side, will always have a valve separating them, or in this wall separating them. And that is pretty much because, of course, because blood has a job to do, it's actually getting sent to the body to allow things to do their jobs and help them work. We need the flow of blood to be one directional. Now, the problem with the heart is, as it squeezes to pump the blood around your body, yeah, it's pumping blood the one way that we want it to go. When it expands again, in order to be able to squeeze again, it creates a little bit of a vacuum and would naturally want to suck all that blood back over. Yeah. Now, of course, like I say, we don't want it coming back over. It just needs to go and do its job. So these valves only allow one-way travel of blood. So once it comes into the ventricle at the bottom, it can't go back into the atrium. Yeah. So that is, like I say, just allowing the blood to pass sort of in one direction rather than it backflowing a little bit. So there would be little valves separating the right atrium and the left atrium. Now, those valves can get damaged as well, and again, through lack of exercise and poor sort of dietary choices as well. Now, they can start to get sort of blocked or sort of crusty almost, from sort of fat deposits and stuff like that. So again, this can all be fine. But if even just one valve is, knackered or starting to degrade a little bit, you're going to pretty soon end up with problems, really. So, it's just something to be aware of. And of course, prevention, as always, is better than cure, guys. Better to just try and be mindful of your heart and your exercise and your food and stuff like that. Rather than get to the point where something's not working right and you get told, right, you need to lose this amount of weight and you need to be on this really, really sort of restrictive diet. That's nowhere near as fun or flexible, I guess, as, just running your own fitness, being responsible for your own fitness and kind of just looking after yourself, I guess, really, guys. Okay, so before we move on to the next one, we've got our lung box to the right-hand side and body over to the left, like I say, just sort of giving us an idea where the blood is either coming from or to. Okay, so step 5. So for step 5, you can see that we're actually bringing some blood into the equation now. So as we can see from our key in the bottom left, we've marked this as oxygenated blood, So the first of your two pens, pencils, whatever it is that you're using, make yourself a little note down in the bottom left. Just that this is going to be oxygenated blood. Yeah, and we're going to mark where it is, where it comes from, where it goes, and why, and the entire journey that it goes on. Okay, so starting at the lungs, I think is a pretty good place to start for this sort of cycle, because of course it's kind of a never-ending cycle. You could jump in at any point. It's a loop, but the lungs is a good place to start, guys, because as I'm sure we all know, the lungs are what helps us bring oxygen into the body, of course, as we breathe. So as we breathe in, you're going to feel your chest rise, and your ribs might even expand a little bit as your lungs inflate and fill up. So from there, the oxygen then goes down into like all these millions of little sort of almost like little branches within your lungs, and they fill little tiny air sacs within the lungs, and then the blood passes sort of within the walls of those sacs and absorbs the oxygen. Yeah, so the blood comes along, picks up the oxygen from the lungs. Thank you very much. I'm off. See you in a little bit. So that's what it does, guys. So the blood picks up oxygen in the lungs. So what we're dealing with is blood with oxygen in it. Yeah, so we've got oxygenated blood. From there, we're coming into the left-hand side of the heart. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, of course, it always comes in through the atrium. So we're coming into the left atrium. Yeah, oxygenated blood from the lungs into the left atrium. Jobs are good. Right. Then, like I mentioned before as well, we're going to then pass through the valve into the left ventricle. Yeah. Then from there, of course, the blood needs to get pretty much to everywhere else in the body to help organs and muscles and stuff like that do their job. So the heart will then squeeze and contract. This is when we feel it beat. And it forces this blood that's carrying oxygen all around the body. So it comes out into one major artery from the heart and then splits off into loads and loads of little branches or other little roots, getting smaller and smaller. Like I say, from your head down to the tips of your toes. It all comes through this one artery out of the heart, branches off, and then goes to wherever it needs to be, top to toe, and then delivers the oxygen to the muscles, which allows muscles to move and do their jobs. Yeah, so helping muscles contract and stuff like that, which, like we mentioned earlier, is how we move. Muscles contracting and muscle fibers firing. Without oxygen, guys, that's not going to happen. So, if you've ever been exercising and done like a lot of running and stuff like that, and you feel your legs starting to really start to go to lead, that could either be a mix of not getting enough oxygen or a lactic acid building up as well. But sometimes, guys, like I say, lack of oxygen can start to shut muscles down pretty quickly. It's partially why sometimes how if you say like athletes, like footballers, go to a different country and they're playing at a different altitude, their body's just not used to working with those different oxygen levels, so I say World Cups where really favorite teams have gone and had an absolute stinker of a tournament, just not used to playing at like the altitude of wherever they are, so yeah, really big impact on how our muscles work and how we can actually move is this oxygen getting to where it needs to be, guys. So again, gives us as good a reason as any why we need to take care of our arteries and our veins, to help get this, because like I say, it's kind of like the roads and the highways and the motorways getting the oxygen around the body to where it needs to be. Okay then, so we can see from the lungs, left atrium, left ventricle, through the big artery, and drops the oxygen off. So naturally, guys, from there, what we have is the blood that now has no oxygen because it's spent its payload, it's delivered what it's come to deliver. And then kind of in order to be able to repeat the process again, it needs to make its way back to where the oxygen comes in, doesn't it? Yeah, so it needs to make its way back to the lungs. So how does it do it? So it actually returns to the heart on its way to the lungs. Yeah, on its way back to the lungs, it returns to the heart. So kind of flips the process on its head, really, if we look at the order that it comes in. So now it comes from the body into the right atrium rather than the left. Yeah, so into the right atrium, same again, through that little valve into the right ventricle, and then again through another main blood vessel back round to the lungs. Yeah, so it's almost like this figure eight sort of thing that's going on, isn't it? Where we've got blood coming from the lungs, oxygenated through the left side, round to the body, drops the oxygen off, then it's into the right side, out the bottom, and back round to the lungs, guys. So that's really the full journey, because then, of course, comes into the lungs, picks up oxygen again, and off it goes. Yeah, repeats the whole cycle again. So that whole process only takes about a minute. Yeah, all the way around the body. Now, again, that's going to change depending on how hard your heart's beating, how hard you're taxing those muscles and making them work. But yeah, on average, guys, around about a minute. So if you think like from the moment you're born or beforehand, really, because your heart's working, from the minute your heart comes into existence and you're in the womb to the like when you die, your heart is just constantly cycling and cycling and cycling. So it's the same as I think of it like a car, I guess. If you are running your car and the red line all the time, it's going to break a lot sooner than something that you just take it steady with, and look after. And the heart's exactly the same, guys. So if you sort of don't look after your heart and make it work harder, in order to pump the blood, and maybe your heart is actually working pretty hard just to sort of get you up the stairs, if like depending on where your level of fitness is, it's going to wear out a lot quicker, and you're going to start coming across those health problems, heart disease, and just like getting lightheaded and dizziness and stuff like that when you are trying to exercise. So again, guys, we've got to really, really take care of this and kind of make the job as easy for your heart as possible. If I'm sat here, even just to deliver this session, if my heartbeat was roughly 40 beats per minute, and then you've got someone whose heart is working 80 beats a minute to do the same thing, but their heart's working twice as hard. Yeah, so it's working harder. And like I say, the easier a time your heart actually has, the longer it's going to last in theory. So again, that's why we've got to make sure that we're taking good care of it, putting good foods into your body, good fats, of course. We need good fats for the heart as well, not bad fats, not saturated fats and trans fats, which are actually going to, get in the way of your valves and sit in your arteries and your veins and actually cause blockages and, make your heart have to work even harder to pump blood past them. The easier this process is, guys, probably the better you're going to feel day to day anyway, the fitter you're going to feel, but the easier time your heart's going to have as well. And like I say, it won't break down and wear down as anywhere near as quick. Because at the end of the day, guys, this is kind of like our, it's kind of like a battery, I guess. If the brain's like the engine that makes everything go, this is kind of like the battery, and you're not going anywhere without it, guys. So yeah, it's quite amazing the amount of people I've seen in the gyms over the years that I've worked in, even so on social media and stuff. The amount of people in general that are really happy to work on the muscles that look good in the mirror. The biceps, the pecs, the abs, the glutes, whatever, but not the one muscle that's actually supplying those other muscles, but keeping you alive as well. Seems like a little bit of a shame and really a missed opportunity, guys. This is the muscle that's keeping us going, take care of this as much as you would any other muscle, you know, as much as you would with your biceps or your triceps or whatever it might be. You know, this is like one of the really, really important ones. Right, guys, so just before we do spin on, we can see bottom right in the little diagram that we've got this blue arrow and this blue color, which is indicating deoxygenated blood. So just like I mentioned, once it's been to the body and the muscles and dropped its oxygen off, it's deoxygenated. Yeah, it needs to actually come back to the lungs, start the process again. So we call it deoxygenated blood. So from there, we can actually see that the right-hand side and the left-hand side of the heart deals with two separate sides of the process. Yeah. So whereas when we first drew these four boxes, you might have been thinking to yourself, okay, it might come into one, pass through the other, into the other, through the other, and then out and only come through the heart once. Actually doesn't. It makes two trips to the heart, doesn't it? So from the lungs to the heart, then from the body and the muscles back to the heart. Yeah. So it shows us really the importance, I think, of this septum down the middle, because you are actually keeping the oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood separate. Yeah. So part of the problem that we would have, really, if you think about it, because it is possible again through lifestyle choices, that this wall, this septum, can start to break down and eventually get like a hole in or become sort of permeable, or allow the transfer of fluid from one side to the other, which, you know, makes a lot more sense that that's a bad thing when we understand that one side is oxygenated blood and the other side is deoxygenated blood. So think about it this way. If this wall wasn't here, or this wall was kind of compromised or broken, however you want to think about it, like I say, these two different types of blood would be sort of mixing with each other. So what we would actually have would be deoxygenated blood coming into the left-hand side and diluting the oxygenated blood. So it would then get sent round the body, and maybe 50% of the blood that gets through the body isn't actually carrying oxygen, because it's come round this way, back into here, and back round there. It hasn't made it back to the lungs. Yeah, so we're actually delivering. I think of it as almost like a little delivery van. You know, each blood vessel or each bit of blood's like a little delivery van. So what you're actually doing, you'd be sending 50% of the delivery that you're sending out isn't carrying anything. Yeah, it's not carrying the oxygen. So the muscles that are there waiting for the oxygen are really disappointed when the blood turns up and isn't carrying any oxygen. So you can actually end up getting really, really dizzy and lightheaded, at the very least, you know, from this sort of thing. You know, so we can see why we wouldn't want this deoxygenated blood coming into here and then getting pumped round back to the body that needs more oxygen. At the same time, of course, the human body is evolved the way that it has, and it's very, very efficient in a lot of ways. So if you think about it again as almost like a little delivery van system, think about it the other way around as well. So we've done deoxygenated coming over to the left-hand side, but what about if obviously some of this blood went over to this side? I mean, it means that there's oxygenated blood in the body that isn't actually going where it needs to go. Yeah, it's actually come across to here, and then it's skipped out the step that it's needed for. Yeah. And at the same time, where does it go straight from there? Oxygenated blood comes in, comes across over to this side if this septum's gone. And then we'd be thinking about, okay, some of the blood, maybe 50% of the blood, then goes back round to the lungs, but is already carrying oxygen. So you're essentially sending a van that's full of fruit back to the depot to pick up more fruit, and it's already full. It can't, you know, it's not efficient. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of calories eventually, because it's calories and energy that make these that makes these processes happen. You know, that actually allows the heart to beat and stuff like that. So we would be wasting energy. So really, we want all deoxygenated blood on its way back to the lungs, and we want all oxygenated blood on its way to deliver that oxygen to anything that needs it. So really, it's bad news if we've got this side and this side mixing, you know. So that water is really important. And again, I've worked with people over the years that have had conditions where they've had a hole in the septum in the heart or whatever, you know. And like I say, you get some like health problems that come as a result. So yeah, guys, that, like I said, that is the full cycle, you know, the old it's almost a figure eight or an infinity loop, really, I guess. But like I say, nice and clearly marked. We've got our two different colors, and they let us know where's deoxygenated and where's oxygenated. And like I say, really, really handy to just sort of either come back to this to revise and just get more familiar with the heart and the journey that the blood flow goes on. Or at the same time, you know, keep this on hand and think about some of the other stuff that we talk about, our diets, when we're talking about, like I say, things that are really high in fat. We can now understand why it's not just bad for you, but we know one of the reasons why. You know, it's going to block these valves, it's going to block these veins and these arteries, which, as we can now understand and appreciate, it's you know, really, really potentially dangerous. Okay, guys, right, just to finish us up on the diagram, we've got one more step to do. So what we've actually done, just to finish this up, we have labeled actually the major blood vessels that are in play here as well, you know. So we've got the heart, but we've got all these blood vessels that are bringing blood either to the heart or from the heart. Yeah. Okay, so from the lungs, at the start of the journey again, you know, really good place to start. From the lungs into the heart is a pulmonary vein. Yeah, pulmonary vein. So when I hear pulmonary, thinking anything to do with pulmonary is to do with the lungs, really. Yeah. So we can notice on this one as well, for when we get to it, that's pulmonary as well. Pulmonary artery takes it back to the lungs. Pulmonary vein brings it from the lungs. Yeah. Okay then. Okay. So what we've got the pulmonary vein, which is the main vein that brings oxygenated blood to the heart. Yeah. That big artery at the bottom of the left ventricle that originally sort of disperses oxygenated blood and branches off in all these different little routes is the aorta, guys. And the aorta is the biggest artery in the body. Yeah. And where the pressure is going to be the highest. Yeah. Because it's the heart that contracts and then belts the blood out around your system. So yeah, that's why an artery, guys, normally the blood pressure is a little bit higher, which, I mean, even in movies, I know it can be really exaggerated, but if you see somebody cut an artery, you might say it's sort of spurting rather than trickling or just like a fountain. And that's the way that it would be in real life, guys. You know, with each heartbeat, it would be squirt, squirt, squirt. So yeah, blood pressure in arteries tends to be a lot higher than in veins, just because it's closer to the heart and the heart actually contracted. Okay, guys, so I'll give you a little bit of a freebie because we have got a little bit of a quiz to finish the session up this morning, but just a little bit of a fun fact. So when we think about the heart beating and you're trying to think about, like I say, checking your heartbeat, when we do the national anthem, it's hand on the left-hand side of your chest, isn't it? When really, like, I think a lot of belief is that the heart is over to the left-hand side of your chest. So I mean, if I put my hand there, I can feel my heart beating a lot harder than I can if it's in the middle. So that's led us to believe, really, that the heart is on the left-hand side of your chest, when that's not the case. The heart actually sits pretty much dead center, so right behind this sternum that we talked about the other week. Yeah, and within your rib cage as well. So what we've got, and again, now we can understand why. The reason that we feel our heartbeat more on the left-hand side is because the left-hand side of the heart squeezes harder, it beats harder, yeah? So this side of the heart beats harder to force the oxygenated blood all the way around your system, yeah? So the heart, yeah, guys, is dead center, but the left-hand side beats harder, yeah? A little bit of a fun fact, and it's ever so slightly tilted to the left-hand side as well. But yeah, really, your heart's dead center. It's just the left-hand side that's beating harder. Okay, guys. Okay, so where were we? So yeah, that was the aorta. So yeah, this left-hand side of the heart squeezes really hard, forces the blood through the aorta. Again, it branches off, goes up to your head, your brain, upper body, lower body, down to your toes, your legs, and it, like I say, eventually drops off this oxygenated blood. Then all of these different channels again meet up and converge in one main vein, which is the Vena Cava, yeah, or the Vena Cava, depending on how posh you are. So then we've got, yeah, the Vena Cava at the top coming into this right atrium. So same again, this will have had branches coming from the upper body, branches coming from the lower body, but it all eventually funnels into one and then into the right atrium. So we've got Vena Cava there, and then the pulmonary artery, again, like I mentioned, is what takes the blood back round to the lungs. Yeah, so pulmonary artery is what takes the blood back round to the lungs to pick up oxygen again. Okay, guys. Okay, so like I say, those are the main blood vessels that we need to know, really. And again, we've got to take care of these blood vessels as much as the heart as well. So we're just thinking about taking care of or making sure we're again making good food choices, not getting as much fat and stuff like that in our diet, or bad fats, which we talked about last week. Again, by all means, go back and sort of check out last week's session again. Have a little bit of a recap, and of course these videos will always be up. So anytime you do want to go back and sort of have a little bit of a recap, just go over anything again, by all means do, guys. Like I say, it's sometimes handy to go back and revisit some of the older stuff once we've covered more stuff, I guess, if that makes sense. So again, now we've had a good look at the heart and we've come in to understand the heart a little bit better, we can go back to last week where we were looking at food and think about, okay, how my food choices actually impact the heart. And like I say, come to understand those choices just a little bit more, guys. But that is really sort of the journey of the blood around the body from lungs back to lungs, you know, including everywhere it goes and stops off on the way. And it happens pretty quick. And again, you know, I'm quite appreciative of the fact that the heart is involuntary, you know, involuntary muscle, where I haven't got to tell it to beat every like 60 times every minute or whatever, you know, like every single second. So yeah, guys, keep that on hand, keep your little diagram on hand. It might help you through the quiz as well. By all means, do come back to it and check it out if you feel like you need to or you want to, you know. Like I say, that's the point of doing this, guys. It doesn't just help us visualize it. It gives us something on hand that we can come back to and quite easily sort of pick up again and revisit and just sort of refresh the knowledge, I guess. Okay, guys. Okay, so again, I'm just going to give you guys a minute. So for anybody that didn't do or chose not to do their own copy of the diagram while we were on the heart, we're still going to need a pen and paper anyway to do these 20 questions for the heart quiz, guys. So yeah, 20 questions. What we'll do, we'll go through all the questions. You can put an answer down, and then we can go through one at a time, mark off the answers, see which ones we got. Again, if you're watching in the chat, let me know how you get on or anything that you're not sure of, and we'll go from there, guys. But yeah, rather than put an answer down, I'll tell you the answer and work our way through that way. We'll do all 20 questions. You guys can have a guess. Yeah, they are all multiple choice, I think, bar maybe the last two. And then we'll mark through them all together at the end. Okay, so guys, start to fire us off. First question that we've got: how many times does your heart beat in a lifetime? Yeah, how many times does your heart beat in a lifetime? And we've got A, 2.5 million, B, 2.5 billion, or C, 2.5 trillion. So again, we've mentioned this morning that your heart is beating from the moment that it sort of comes into existence, when you're in the womb, certainly when you're born, and until we die. So on average, guys, how many times in your life does your heart beat? Yeah. Thinking about it, when I was talking about heart rate earlier on, even if we think about the average heart rate being 60 to 80 beats a minute, what does that add up to over a lifetime? It's going to be a big number. It's going to be a big old number. Just how big? Yeah, so 2.5 million, 2.5 billion, 2.5 trillion. Okay, spinning on. Question 2. So, the heart can live outside the body. True or false? Yeah. Could or can the heart live outside the body? In any capacity. So I want to think about. If you're not so sure, true or false, it's 50-50. Have a guess. Okay, next one. Question 3. Another true or false, guys. The bigger your heart, the better. Yeah? So is a bigger heart a good thing? True or false? Again, have a just a little stab in the dark if you're not sure. Have a guess. The bigger your heart, the better. Question 4. A broken heart can A, really hurt, B, be seen on an X-ray, or C, last forever. A broken heart can really hurt, be seen on an X-ray, last forever. Okay. Question 5. See who was listening earlier. Where in your chest is your heart? Is it left, right, or center? A, B, or C? Where in your chest is your heart? Question 6. How many gallons of blood does your heart pump each day? Is it 800 gallons, 1,000 gallons, or 2,000 gallons? Yeah, so just to put it into a little bit of context, let's look at this in liters as well. So it's about 5 to 1. It's about 5 to 1. Okay. Gallon to liters. So 800 gallons is about, in fact, about 3,636 liters. So 3,636 liters. So again, guys, think about them 2-liter bottles of pop. Yeah. 2 liters is like what? 1,800 2-liter bottles to get this amount. Okay, so 1,000 gallons is about 4,500 liters. 2,000, of course, is about double that. So it's 9,000 liters, guys. So either how many gallons of blood does your heart pump each day? 800, 1,000, or 2,000. If you want to use liters, how many liters of blood does your heart pump each day? Either 3,500-ish, 4,500-ish, or 9,000-ish. What do we think for that one, guys? How many gallons of blood does your heart pump each day? Yes, remember, we're not talking about a lifetime. It's every single day, this. Okay, question 7. When was the first successful human heart transplant? Was it 1946, 1967, 1978? When was the first successful human heart transplant? So was it either around about the time of the Second World War? Was it just after England won the World Cup? Or was it just before the, just at the back end of the roaring 70s? Yeah? Gotta give it more context than that. What happened in the 70s? Was Beatlemania 70s? No, that was the 60s. Anyway, guys, when was the first successful human heart transplant? 1946, 1967, or 1978? Okay. Question 8. How many chambers are in the heart? Yeah, so think about how many rooms we draw on our diagram. Have we got 3 chambers, 2 chambers, or 4 chambers in the heart? What do we think? Same again, you can always go back and check your diagram if you need to or want to. It's a revision tool at the end of the day, guys. So how many chambers are in the heart? 3, 2, or 4? Question number 9. Which animal's heart is most like a human's, as in how they look and how they work? Is it a dog heart, a pig heart, or an ape heart? Which animal's heart is most like a human's? Dog, a pig, or an ape? Speaking of dogs, mine's snoring away in the corner, so if you can hear him, I apologise. He's having a good old little snooze. Okay, A, B, or C, dog, pig, ape for question 9. Moving on. Question 10. True or false? A heart can sometimes heal itself, or fix itself. True or false? So a heart can sometimes fix itself. So think about this along the lines of if you were eating bad foods, not really exercising, and your heart was starting to have problems, like I say, hole in the septum or whatever. If you gave it a chance to, would it start to heal itself? What do we think? True or false? Yeah, and have a little guess if we're not sure. Okay. Question 11, flying through. So the heart has been linked with love at least as far back as when? Yeah. So we've talked about today, of course, the function of the heart, get oxygen around the body. It's nothing to do with love, actually. It's got nothing to do with attachment. It's got nothing to do with emotion, really. You would think so. There's come a time where, as a culture, as a society, or I guess as a species, really, I guess, because it's worldwide, there's come a time where the heart has been linked with love and affection. When was that, guys? Do you think? Was it the Middle Ages? Elizabethan times, or was it the 60s? The heart to be linked with love. As far back as the Middle Ages, Elizabethan times, or the 60s. So again, a little bit more context. Let's have a look and see. The Middle Ages was the years kind of 400 to 1400 BC. No, AD. AD. Yeah. Cool. So either 1,000 and odd years ago, or was Elizabethan times. That was 1500 to 1600 Elizabethan times, or the 60s, which was, of course, do you know what? I still want to say, I still want to say 30, 40 years ago for the 60s, but it's not 60 years ago now, man. Crazy, crazy. Okay, guys, but when do we think the heart began to be linked with love? Question 12. Should you be careful of airport security machines if you have a pacemaker? True or false? Be careful of airport security machines if you have a pacemaker. True or false? What do we think, guys? What do we think? Stuck in my head now. I've done this to myself. Okay, so question 13. What do you call the wall of muscle that separates the right and left sides of the heart? Yeah, so that big thick wall of muscle down the middle, separating the left-hand side from the right-hand side. Is it the atrium? Is it the ventricle? Or is it the septum? What divides the left-hand side of the heart from the right-hand side of the heart? Atrium, ventricle, or septum? Right. Question 14. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Question 14. When blood enters the heart from the lungs, is the blood oxygenated or deoxygenated? Yeah. So when blood enters the heart from the lungs, is it oxygenated or deoxygenated? Is it carrying oxygen or is it not when it comes from the lungs? Question 15. What is considered a healthy resting heart rate? So resting, meaning when you haven't really done any exercise, yeah, when you are literally kind of resting, your body's at rest. Of course, your heart is still beating, not as hard as it would be if you were exercising. But what is considered to be a healthy heart rate for when you're resting? 100 to 120 beats per minute, 80 to 100 beats per minute, 60 to 80 beats per minute. So A, B, or C. 100 to 120, 80 to 100, 60 to 80. Yeah? If you're not sure and you just want to have a little bit of a educated guess, maybe, you know, put your fingers on where you can feel your pulse. Yeah, so 2 fingers, one way you can feel your pulse. Think about how many times yours might be beating in a minute. You can actually count it. Set a timer for 15 seconds, count how many beats you get, times it by 4. Yeah? Feel your own resting heart rate, guys. What's it doing right now while you're resting? How many beats per minute is it? Yeah? 100 to 120 beats, 80 to 100 beats, 60 to 80 beats per minute. What do we think? Okay, number 16. What is the name of the main artery that pumps blood around the body? Yeah, so what is the name of the main artery that pumps blood around the body? So atrium, aorta, or pulmonary vein. So if we think, guys, again, back to our diagram, that left ventricle that's carrying the oxygenated blood has that one artery, doesn't it? That it pumps the blood into, which then starts to branch off and go all around the body to deliver that oxygen. What's the name of that main artery, guys? Is it the atrium? Is it the aorta? Or is it the pulmonary vein? Okay, last few. Question 17. What are the top two chambers of the heart called? Aorta, atrium, or septum? Yeah? So thinking about our box, our diagram, our 4 rooms, what do you call the 2 chambers at the top? Aorta, atrium, or septum? A, B, or C? Question 18. What is the name of the bottom 2 chambers of the heart? So ventricles, vein, vena cava. Yeah, so the last one was the top 2. This is the bottom 2. And that in itself might give the answer to an earlier question about how many there are in total. So ventricles, vein, vena cava. What is the name of the bottom 2 chambers of the heart? Where the blood will leave, pass out into, whether it's going to the body or to the lungs, it of course passes out the bottom chamber of either side. What do we call that chamber, guys? Okay, question 19 then. Question 19. How big is your heart? Is it the size of an orange? Is it the size of your head? Or is it the size of your fist? How big is your heart? Yeah, size of an orange, size of your head, size of your fist. A, B, or C? Okay, then question 20. When our heart beats, is it involuntary or is it voluntary? Yeah? Do you tell your heart to beat, or does it do its own thing and beat regardless? I think that's the last one. Cool. Cool. So that was the last question, guys. And we'll just spend another couple of seconds on this last one. So anybody that wants to have a guess, get an answer down. And then we'll go back to the start. We'll work our way through one question at a time, see how we got on, and just have a nice sort of steady end to the session this morning. Okay, guys, so when our heart beats, is it voluntary or involuntary? A is involuntary, B is voluntary. Let me get my way back to the first question. And we'll work our way through one at a time. One at a time. Okay. Okay, guys. So question 1. How many times does your heart beat in a lifetime? 2.5 million, 2.5 billion, 2.5 trillion. The answer for question 1 is B, 2.5 billion. Yeah, so 2.5 million itself sounds like a really, really big number. But again, we're talking about something that goes from birth till death. 2.5 million isn't high enough. It's actually 2.5 billion potentially, you know, which is absolutely amazing, really. If you think about what 2.5, I don't even know how many zeros is in a billion to put it in a calculator. I'm trying to think. If we divide that by what we got 2.5. 2 billion. Yeah, okay. So 2 billion divided by, say, our Average lifespan is what, 80? It's 31 million times a year. So it is more than this, guys. A good bit more than this every single year. Never mind in a lifetime. So question one is B, 2.5 billion times on average your heart will beat in your lifetime. Question two, the heart can live outside of the body, is actually true. It's A for question two. So the heart actually has its own electrical current. As we were talking about earlier, it's involuntary, but it actually has its own electrical current, so it can keep itself beating, which is one of the reasons why a heart transplant is easier to do than a brain transplant, because we can keep a heart engaged and working and active in transit, really, because it can beat outside the body. I remember seeing a news article not long ago about a lad who, I think he was waiting for some kind of operation, and he was literally carrying his heart around in his backpack every day. It was external. See if I can find him. See if I can find his name so you can have a look. Even yourself if you want to. Let's have a look. Stan Larkin is his name. He was kept alive, 25-year-old, kept alive for a year and a half with an artificial heart in a backpack. And he's finally received a proper transplant. So for 17 months, he was living with an artificial heart that lives in his backpack. Like, that's insane. That's like, I didn't even realize it was for that long, man. I can't even remember where my car keys are. Never mind after ever. I remember me bag with my heart in every time, everywhere I went. Like, that is a testament to science, and fair play to the guy. Like, but it can be done, guys. It can be done. The heart can live outside the body. Stan Larkin was his name. Larkin, if you wanted to look into that anymore. Really, really interesting story. Question three: the bigger your heart, the better. True or false? Is actually false. So a bigger heart is actually a bad thing and potentially dangerous. And I'm sure we've all heard the saying, oh, what a nice person. They've got such a big heart. They've got such a caring heart or a giving heart. But an enlarged heart is, like I say, actually dangerous. So they call it cardiomegaly. Cardiomegaly. Yeah, cardiomegaly is an increase in the size of the heart. It's not strictly a disease. It's a sign that another health condition is affecting your heart. Yeah, so some conditions, for example, such as pregnancy, will increase demand on the heart as well. So potential complications that you're going to get, you've got potential blood clots, which can block your blood flow and lead to heart attack, stroke, embolism, which is like a blockage, could be in your lung. Heart failure, if it's the left-hand side of your heart as well. So in general, guys, a bigger heart is not it's not a good thing, guys. And you can spend your life on medication to actually help you deal with or live with an enlarged heart, as we call it. Okay, question four. A broken heart can A, really hurt or actually hurt, B, be seen on an x-ray, and C, last forever. Now, a broken heart, guys, can actually hurt. It can really hurt. So the answer is A for question four. So it's to do with chemicals and it's to do with hormones, guys. So if you think about it like a bereavement or something, so after a breakup or death of a loved one, the brain stops producing certain chemicals, and the body literally suffers withdrawal from these feel-good chemicals and these feel-good hormones. That's why a broken heart can feel so difficult and so painful to deal with. So, again, this might be potentially where we've started to associate the heart with love. Thinking about one of those other questions, the fact that, losing somebody that we do care about, be it through a breakup or through bereavement, can actually cause genuine pain. And maybe you've heard of elderly couples where these people have been together for 50, 60 years, and one of them passes away and the other one passes away soon after, and actually from a broken heart. They can actually hurt. They wouldn't show up on an x-ray, and I'm sure anybody that's been through a bereavement or a breakup could probably vouch that time is potentially the only thing that makes it feel better. But I mean, depending on the circumstance, you could argue that it could last forever. But really, guys, a broken heart can actually cause pain. And that's why the body goes into withdrawal from these feel-good hormones. Okay, question 5. Where in your chest is your heart? And I think I actually gave this answer away earlier on. So where in your chest is your heart? Is it left? Is it right? Or is it center? It's actually C. It's actually in the center. And we talked about earlier on, why we usually think it's over to the left-hand side. It beats harder on the left-hand side. It's sort of slightly skewed and tilted to the left. But in general, guys, it's nice and central. Get protection from your ribs and your sternum as well, smack bang in the middle. Okay, question 6. How many gallons of blood does your heart pump each day? Yeah, so we had 800 gallons, 1,000 gallons, 2,000 gallons. Yeah, or of course we converted it to liters as well, just to visualize the amount of liter bottles of pop or 2 liter bottles of pop we'd be able to fill with the amount of blood that goes through your heart each day. And the answer, guys, actually quite surprisingly, is 2,000 gallons and 9,000 liters a day. Yeah, so if you think about them 2 liter bottles of pop, Coke, Fanta, Tango, whatever it might be, those 2 liter bottles of pop, 4,500 of them every single day you could fill with blood from the heart, from the blood that goes through your heart every single day. Yeah, so it's a big old recycling system, really, because you don't have anywhere near that amount of blood. But what you do have is, of course, as we looked at first thing this morning when we did our diagram, it's a never-ending loop. So although you don't have that much blood in your body, there's that much traffic, and that much blood actually passes through the body every day, or through the heart every day. So 2,000 gallons, 9,000, more than 9,000 liters every single day. Okay, guys, when was the first successful human heart transplant? 46, 1967, 1978. The answer, guys, is B. So not as early as World War II, or the back end of World War II, not as late as the 70s, nearly into the 80s. It was actually in the 60s. So for context, again, it was the year after we won the World Cup, guys. So, 50 some years ago. And we've actually come a really long way since then. But if you think like that many years ago, 50, 60 years ago, the fact that we could actually put a heart into somebody else, when you think about when did refrigerators become mainstream? Let's have a look. When did fridges become common? So in the 30s. So we're talking really, guys, not even really 40 years after like refrigerators have been made a common thing in the house. Like not even 30 years after that, we successfully changing a human heart. Now, it wasn't the first attempted human heart transplant, but it was the first successful human heart transplant. Now, the gentleman who it was conducted on actually didn't live much longer past the heart transplant. And I believe he died of pneumonia or complications to do with that. But because it wasn't anything to do with the heart transplant and the heart didn't give up on him, it was deemed to be successful in 1967. and is considered to be the first successful human heart transplant. Right, guys, so B for question 7. Moving on to question 8. How many chambers are there in the heart? How many of those different rooms have we got in the heart? We've got 4. Yeah, so 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. And we're going to have a little bit of a recap in the names towards the back end of the quiz as well. So C for question 8, 4 chambers in the heart. Question 9, which animals is most like a humans, as in how they look and how they work? Yeah, is it a dog heart, a pig heart, or an ape heart? And it's actually an ape heart. For question 9, the answer is C then. So when we stop and think about it, I mean, to me, it kind of makes a little bit of sense from a evolutionary point of view. I think the animals that we are most closely related to would be an ape. So it kind of makes sense for their heart to be the most similar to ours. What I find funny about this, and what I find really interesting about this, is that in actual fact, when we do certain heart transplants and when we do valve transplants, when we're thinking about those valves in the heart as well, if we can't get a humans, we can actually use a pig's. It's actually been done to put like pig heart valves onto human hearts, which is absolutely mind-blowing. To me, it is anyway. It's absolutely fascinating. You know, and then you add the fact that it's actually an apes, which is the most similar to ours, but we use a pigs because X, Y, and Z. Truth be told, I don't know why we use a pig over an ape. It must just be that the body has an easier time accepting the tissue and the organs, I guess. Let's have a quick look. Actually, we've got a little bit of time. Let's have a look. Why do we use pig hearts for transplants? I mean, not to mention the fact that it's a lot easier to get pig hearts in abundance with farms and stuff like that than it is to get a load of ape hearts. That's probably the biggest reason, to be fair. It's similar enough that it could be used, yeah. So I think that's what it is, guys, to be honest, from what I can glean from that. It's just easier to get an abundance of pig hearts, of course, through farms and stuff. Okay, question 10. A heart can sometimes fix itself. True or false? Question 10 is actually true. So the way that I put it earlier on was, you know, if you were drinking a lot, smoking, whatever, eating all the bad foods, if you stopped doing those things that were damaging your heart and gave your heart a chance to heal itself, would it? And the answer is actually yes, it would. It's the same as like a liver in an alcoholic who, you know, you stop drinking, that tissue, that organ will begin to repair itself. You know, your lungs, to an extent, from smoking, will begin to repair themselves as well. So, yeah, the heart is the same as any other organ. Given the opportunity to, it can fix itself. Question 11. The heart has been linked with love at least as far back as the Middle Ages, Elizabethan times, and the 60s. So question 11 is actually, guys, the Middle Ages. And I'm going to just recount the little story of how it came about. So it was actually to do with the shape of a fruit on a tree. I'm just trying to find the actual story. quickly trying to find that as we're going through the rest of these questions. But yeah, it was the Middle Ages, which was a really, really long time ago, obviously. So, you know, it's kind of been ingrained in us ever since. And it was like to the point where, like, when I first started studying the heart and stuff like this, I'd never even considered why we associate the heart to have anything to do with love. Which at the same time as well, when we think about the heart that we would draw to like signify and sort of represent love, doesn't even look like a heart, does it? It's got its own it's that sort of its own heart shape, and that is what comes from the fruit of a tree, actually, which I believe was an aphrodisiac. So yeah, back in the days, there was a fruit that looked like a heart, yeah, and was a little bit of an aphrodisiac, you know, caused some affection and you know a little bit of however you want to put it, I guess, attraction, and yeah, that's where it's come from, guys. But yeah, the heart has been linked with love, at least as far back as the Middle Ages that we found records of. Question 12, be careful of airport security machines if you have a pacemaker, is absolutely true. They should have a big sign letting you know, to, you know, let staff know, avoid the airport scanner if you do have a pacemaker, because pacemaker is like an electric device that sort of maintains and moderates your heartbeat and sets the pace for your heartbeat. And the electronics from the security machine and the signals that, like the waves that it sends out, can actually interfere with your pacemaker. So yeah, just be careful of that, guys. Careful of airport security machines if you do have a pacemaker. Question 13, what do you call the wall of muscle that separates the right and left side of the heart? Was of course the septum, same as down, it's keeping one nostril separate from the other. Septum in the heart does the same job. So C for 13. Question 14, when blood enters the heart from the lungs, is the blood oxygenated or deoxygenated? So again, we're thinking about from the lungs, it's coming to the heart, so it's come from the lungs, so it's got to have oxygen. Yeah, it's got to be it's got to be oxygenated, for question 14. Question 15, what is considered a healthy resting heart rate? We have got 60 to 80 beats per minute. Yeah, is considered a healthy resting heart rate. 60 to 80 beats per minute. So that's how many times your heart should be beating to pump the blood when you are just resting. Yeah, like you are probably doing right now, like I am right now. Yeah, and it'd be interesting again to check your heart rate again after your after you do some exercise. Like if you do today's workout video, or when you do today's workout video, check it again afterwards, see how much it's increased. But yeah, 60 to 80 beats per minute is considered healthy for how hard your heart is working when you're not exercising. Okay, question 16. What is the name of the main artery that pumps blood around the body? Yeah. So again, if you've got your diagram on hand, we should be able to sort of pretty quickly work out that that is the aorta. Yeah, so the aorta, biggest artery in the body. We know that the pulmonary vein does a different job. The atriums is what are the chambers in the heart, or some of the chambers in the heart. So it's aorta that we're left with. The aorta, biggest artery in the body, and it gets all of that oxygenated blood into your system, really, and around the body to wherever it needs to be. Question 17 then. What are the top two chambers of the heart called? The aorta, the atrium, or the septum? And the top two chambers are the atrium, yeah? I think the plural is atria, maybe. But yeah, atrium either side, left and right side, atrium at the top. Question 18, ventricles. Yeah, the bottom two chambers of the heart, the answer was A. So atrium at the top, ventricle at the bottom, left-hand side and the right-hand side is exactly the same. Question 19, how big is your heart? Is it the size of an orange, the size of your head, or the size of your fist? And it is C. So it's actually relative to the person. So a bigger person can have a bigger heart, and they're going to have a bigger fist as well, of course. So it's relative to the person. An orange, would be a little bit big, and of course, for someone who was a little bit smaller, it would be too big. Someone who was maybe a little bit bigger, it might be too small. Who knows? Depends on the size of the orange. So, the size of the heart actually differs from person to person, to suit that person. So it's not the size of an orange. It's not the size of your head, because there's really not enough room in your rib cage. And then, of course, it's the size of your fist, guys. So if you want to sort of visualize where it is, we know it's central. If you want to think about what size it is, it's your fist, so you can get an idea of where it is and how big it is as well. Yeah, so sits nicely within that rib cage there. So C for question 19, the heart, your heart is the size of your fist. Question 20, our last one, when our heart beats, this is, of course, involuntary. Like we talked earlier on at the start of the session, cardiac muscle, anything to do with the heart, it's involuntary because it beats when you're asleep, not to say that there's not some other stuff that we wouldn't normally do involuntarily that we wouldn't do in our sleep, sleepwalking, talking in your sleep or whatever. But yeah, your heart, it's involuntary muscle, guys. It just beats and does its own thing. I mean, we're literally talking about the fact that it can live outside the body, that would be totally impossible if it was sort of voluntary and we needed to tell it to beat. So yeah, question 20 was involuntary, guys. So the answer was A. And that was our last question. So mark up your answers, see how many you got. If you want to share and you're happy to share, by all means do let me know. Drop me an email, stick it in the chat. So nice one, guys. So yeah, like I say, let me know how you got on with that, and then keep your diagram on hand, because you can come back and check this whenever you want to or feel like you need to, so it's really handy to be able to come back to. But yeah, that was our little heart quiz, guys. Like I say, I'm always interested to know how you got on with that, especially after we've done our diagrams and stuff like that and started to get an idea on the heart. So guys, that'll about wrap us up for this morning then. Of course, I've mentioned all of the extra information in the description below the video. Any sort of supplementary learner info that might be there, my email, link to a fitness session. So as I've mentioned the last couple of weeks, at the end of each session, I've sort of recommended a fitness video that we've got on our YouTube channel. Today's is a home resistance exercise sort of workout. So what I've done is actually got a couple of bits from around the house, be it like a tea towel or a couple of tins of soup where I can use as weights, and just, found a way to make and hopefully show you guys ways to make exercises a little bit harder and a little bit more challenging without needing to go and spend a fortune on different exercise kit as well. I know it can be expensive. I know training and exercising at home might be a temporary fix, even still right now. Not everybody's double jab, not everybody's that keen to go back to, meeting indoor with other people just yet. So, today's session is primarily aimed at, okay, let's use some stuff that we get around the house and still get a good workout in. As always, guys, if that's not what you're feeling today, still follow the link and it'll take you to our playlist. It's got all the sessions in there, so you can pick an abs workout if you want, or you can go back and do the stretching video again if you wanted to. So they're all there. That link that will take you there is in the description. And of course, like I mentioned at the start of the session, we've got our surveys as well, guys, as well. So the link for our survey is in the description. So click the little drop down arrow next to the description for the YouTube video. You should see survey in there. And then you click the survey link, that will go straight to, I'll take you to the survey. You can put your answers in there, put your feedback in there as well, and then it'll come straight back to us. You don't need to worry about downloading it, emailing it back, anything like that. It's a little form. It'll take 30 seconds to just add a little bit of feedback. And then, like I say, it just comes straight back to us. So don't worry about downloading it, emailing it back, or whatever. So yeah, guys, please don't forget to do the survey for today's session. We will, of course, be back next week where we're going to be looking at a little bit more in depth at some of the other types of muscle as well. So we're going to be looking at skeletal muscle, the names, how they work, how we can exercise them, and smooth muscle as well. So thinking more about our organs, the jobs that they do, and again, of course, where they're found in the body and how we can take better care of them as well. So yeah, cardiac muscle done, guys. That will be us next week. We will, of course, be back next Monday, same time, to run what will be our 4th session in our pre-employability course, and we'll be past halfway then, guys. So yeah, if you need me in the meantime, you know where my email is. You've probably got it already because I'm sending session links out. Again, by all means, do get in touch if you need me in the meantime. I am still working through getting stuff together for enrollment forms and stuff like that. So when I've actually done the enrollment form and sent it over to you, I'll send you an email and just let you know it should be in your inboxes. Same again, you should be able to sign that and it should come straight back to us as well. And we'll no need to download them or anything like that as well, guys. So yeah, cool. Right, guys. So thank you as always for tuning in. As always, again, take care of yourselves, stay safe, look after yourself and those around you. And we will be back next week to do it all again, guys. If I don't hear from you in the meantime, I will see you then. Like I say, if you need me, guys, in the meantime, you know where I'm at. Thanks again for logging in. Have a good day, everybody. Enjoy the sunshine if you're lucky enough to have it where you are. Like I say, if you're not today, you know, hopefully we'll have another day or two that's nice, you know, before some of that grayer, wetter weather starts to come in a little bit as well, guys. Okay, right. So we'll wrap it up. We'll leave it there. Like I say, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Take care, guys. Stay safe, and I'll see you here next Monday. Bye.